So we'll learn a little bit about the month of Kislev that we're in, and talk about one aspect of Kislev of this month, particularly that Kislev is connected to the Chodesh HaGeula, the time of Geula, time of revealing of light, the story of Hanukkah, and the Hasidic story of Yutas Kislev. So it's something about light. So we'll talk a little bit about that issue, and we'll start with this idea of the name of the month. So we spoke already a few times that even though the names of the month originally is Olam Vavel, these are names that were adapted from different cultures. Still, everything's by Hashgacha Pratis. Certainly, everything's by divine providence. Certainly, the fact that we call it, and that's the way it's written in a ksuva, this is certainly that it has a lot of kedusha. So the name Kislev is connected to Kes Lamed Vav, which like the kisui or the hidden or the seat that holds Lamed Vav. Lamed Vav, what is Lamed Vav? Lamed Vav represents 36, and Lamed Vav is 36. And Lamed Vav represents the beginning of the creation of Adam Chava, beginning of creation of man. And it's not the creation of a past story that happened then, but the beginning of creation of man means the story of our lives. That means where we come from. That this is the state that we're born into. We're born into a state, into the state of Gan Eden. Ner Dolak Aroishay, that we're in the womb, we're standing sitting with the light that sits above our heads, which represents this perfect state of unity. And the 36 lights, the story in the Garden of Eden, stored in the Vadim Chava, is that for the first 36 hours, so they're created on Friday, up until Matzah Shabbos. And this is the reason why on Matzah Shabbos there's the idea of making Havdalah over with a candle. Is that the Adam Chava were sitting in a state that they were bathed in what was called the Aragonas, the hidden light. And therefore they were completely consumed by this light, and they experienced only real darkness on Matzah Shabbos. And therefore Matzah Shabbos we light a flame. But the difference is that we light a flame also in the beginning of Shabbos. But in the beginning of Shabbos, we light a very gentle one candle. Even if you light a second candle, like the custom is, Zachar Vashamer, etc., for your children, still we're lighting one singular candle, which represents a state of unity. We're entering into Shabbos, which represents a light of unity, versus the Havdalah candle, which represents a shilov of many different wicks that creates a torch. So that represents a different type of fire, a fire that we enter into the weekdays with, versus which represents a multiplicity, versus the idea of a fire that enters into Shabbos. This is the state that Adam and Chava and us on a very deep level are created in. That we're created being bathed in this light of the 36 lights. And therefore, after Adam and Chava, after the story of eating from the tree of knowledge, which is the world of separation, the question that was asked of them was Ayeka. Ayeka means simply, where are you? This is when Hashem sees Adam and asks him, Ayeka, where are you? We know that the question Ayeka, even like Rashi says, is not a question, where are you? Because obviously Hashem is omnipotent and knows exactly where Adam is. But Ayeka is the Kanas Midvarim, to enter into a conversation. But Ayeka on a very deep level, like the Alter Rebbe once said, is where are you? Who haltsna? Like, where are we holding in this world? And the Medrash says that the word Ayeka is numerically 36, which corresponds to the 36 lights. So the question of Ayeka that Adam is asked, and we are being continuously asked ever since, is Ayeka, where are we? What are we doing with our light? Have we concealed our light? Are we projecting our light? We have to understand what this light is, but are we connected still to that inner light that we are born with, that is hidden deeply? So this light is called the Oragonos. And the Oragonos is called the hidden light because this is a light that was created in the beginning of creation, and then was hidden. Where exactly, specifically, where was this hidden? So the Baal Shem Tov says that it was hidden in the Torah. And the first day of creation, which is not Yom Rishon, but Yom Echad, day one, a singular, when the light was being revealed, the light of the Aragonos was being revealed, and this hidden light. And then this light was concealed and was drawn into the Torah. We're specifically in the Torah. So specifically, it was drawn into what is Torah Shebal Peh, the oral aspect of the Torah, and specifically to the idea of the Gemara, to the Talmud. That's why it's brought down B'Shem HaTzadikim that there are 36 tractates of the Talmud corresponds to the 36 lights that exist in the beginning of creation. With regards to the Gemara, which generally is called the Gemara part, the Gemara is called the known part of the Gemara is the Talmud Bavli, the Babylonian Talmud. The Bavli comes from the word balul, something that's mixed up, and that's why Chazal tell us, the sages tell us, the Gemara tells us in Sanhedrin, that b'machshakim v'shivani, when it says that you've responded to a place of darkness, question and complication, that's the Talmud Bavli, that's the Gemara Bavli. Or like a similar idea is expressed in the Medrash Tanchuma and Parshas Noach, which says, the nation that walks in darkness sees a great light, is also referred to the Talmud Bavli. So there's something about the Talmud Bavli, specifically the idea of the Gemara, which is a way of learning of question and answer, and then another question which is specifically connected to this Aragonos. So let's go a little bit deeper to understand what this means. So in the beginning of Bereshis, the Torah talks about the creation of this light, and the Torah mentions the word or 5 times. So the word or light appears 5 times in the Torah, and this is the Zohar mentions this and writes about this at the beginning of Bereshis. And this idea of an idea, a concept that's expressed 5 times, is expressed in every single chumash of the Torah, in Bereshis, and Shmos, and Ayeka, and Mikvah Dvarim. There's a word that appears 5 times that it's interconnected. The word that appears 5 times in the book of Shmos, in the beginning of the book of Shmos, the beginning of the story of the Exodus, of the leaving Mitzrayim, is the word sneh. So the word sneh is connected to this idea of the ar. The sneh is the burning bush, the storing of the burning bush, which is obviously connected to a form of light. So there's a connection between these 2 ideas. What is the connection? So there's a famous question with regards to Hanukkah, one of the most famous questions that is asked. It's a question that the Beis Yosef asked, or Yosef Kara asked. One of the great questions that asked about Hanukkah is, everyone knows the story of Hanukkah. The story of Hanukkah is the story that they finally reconquer in the times of the Hashmonaim. They reconquer Jerusalem, Yerushalayim, and they enter the Beis HaMikdash. They rededicate Hanukkah, comes from Chinuch, they rededicate the Beis HaMikdash, and they can't find any oil to kindle the menorah. And finally, they find a small jug of oil, and this jug of oil, which normally lasts for the longest night, lasts for 8 nights. So that's the miracle. It's the general miracle, the miracle of the oil, and therefore we celebrate Hanukkah for 8 days. But the question is, if it says that they found the jug of oil that was going to last for 1 day, that was able to be lit for 1 night, so then the miracle is really for 7 days, not for 8 days, because the first night they had enough oil. This is the question, and there's hundreds of answers to this question. The oil was divided. The oil was, each night it was burnt a little bit of the oil. There's many different answers about how we understand this oil. There's a lot of complications to all these answers. There's an answer that was given by the Lubavitcher Rebbe. The Rebbe writes, gives an answer. It's very much connected to what we're talking about. And the answer is that it's not a miracle that we're celebrating the particular type of oil that lasted for 8 days, but we're actually celebrating the light that lasted for 8 days. That means is, and normally we understand the miracle of the finding of the jug of oil is that little jug of oil, that Pach Shemen, instead of lasting for 1 night, lasted for 8 nights. But the deeper understanding is not that the miracle is in the oil, it was a miracle of the type of light, that it was revealed in the story of Hanukkah, specifically in the story of Hanukkah. And if you know a little bit about the story of Hanukkah, you know that in the story of Hanukkah, it wasn't a complete redemption. It wasn't like the going out of Egypt and then the complete consumption, the complete obliteration of everything that Egypt represented, and Klal Yisrael was freed of Egypt, and they were able to enter into Eretz Yisrael eventually. And the elimination of that problem completely. But the story of Hanukkah is a story where these group of Chashanoi, which were Kohanim, eventually conquered parts of Eretz Yisrael, and in a very short time period, even not even conquering the entire Eretz Yisrael, but in a very short time period, the dynasty of Chashmonaim turned very corrupt, and it was actually a very harsh time for Klal Yisrael. So it seems to be a miracle, like a very small miracle, something that represents a miracle that occurs within a darkness. So in other words, there's sometimes a miracle where the miracle is so revealing and it's such a great light that's revealed that it dispels all the darkness, and there's no longer any darkness. Then there's a type of light, like the story of Hanukkah, which is a story where the light permeates the darkness, where darkness still exists, but you can see light in there. This can be seen as something that's the opposite of positive. You can also see it as something that's positive. Like the fact that on Hanukkah, for example, we're allowed to do work. You're allowed to do malach on Hanukkah. In fact, you have to do malach certain times on Hanukkah. Even not when the candles are lit, but generally a person should do malach on Hanukkah. On Hanukkah, there's no havdalah, there's no separation. This can be something that's seen as something, well, it's not as holy. Hanukkah is not as holy as a regular day, let's say as Pesach. Or you can see it as chinuch, which is that it's a Hanukkah, it's the beginning process of the revealing of the highest light in the world, the light of Mashiach, which is a light that will be that with such a great light that it permeates even the place of where it seems to be darkness. So let's get back to the idea of the miracle of Hanukkah. The miracle of Hanukkah happened with the light. That the light that is just like we see this light, where we see the light of by the sneh, and we see that Vasneh, the story of the sneh, when Moshe sees the bush, and he sees that there's a fire, and he sees that the fire is not consuming. That same light that was revealed to Moshe at the sneh, at the story of the burning bush, is the same light that was revealed to Klal Yisrael during the story of the Hanukkah. So there are different types of light. In general, the Gemara and Yuma speaks about different types of fire, but the Zohar talks about not just in terms of the colors of the fire, in terms of the colors of the flame. The Zohar talks about generally two types of fire, two types of light. There's a fire that, in order for it to exist, it has to cancel something else out. In other words, if you take a fire, you put a wick and oil, in order for the fire to exist, its existence is dependent on the cancellation of something else. It needs to feed off something else in order to exist. And this essentially is actually the nature of the physical world. In order for us to exist, something else has to die in the process. There has to be some type of ending of one thing in order for another thing to continue. Let's say even if you're eating a fruit, the fruit had to fall off the tree or be plucked from the tree, which means there was a death of that fruit or a death of that vegetation in order for us to survive. And this is the nature of the world. The nature is that life feeds off death. This is a world of a dichotomy of these two things that are in polar opposites, and one needs one in order to exist. Then there's a higher type of fire, which is called the Eshel Amayla, a higher fire, which is a fire that's revealed. It's an or that doesn't consume, doesn't need to eradicate, to obliterate something else in order for it to exist. This is the Or HaGanos. That the Or HaGanos that was revealed to Moshe at the snap, that Vayar Hashem Kisar Lidoros, that Hashem saw the Moshe Rabbeinu stop to see what was going on, and it's brought down in the Svarim that the idea is that the sneh there's always a sneh that's burning. There's always a higher fire of the Eshel Amayla, of the higher fire that's being revealed. The chiddush, the novelty of Moshe was Vayar Hashem Kisar Lidoros. Hashem saw that Moshe actually paused for a moment and stopped to observe that light. That was the Chiddush of Moshe. Moshe was able to see that light. So on Hanukkah, there's a type of revealing of the idea of a light that's revealed in the place of the darkness. That's what Hanukkah is. 8 nights. So 8, the number 8. There's two types of number 8s. There's an 8 that comes after the 7. So you have 1, 2, 3. Then you get to the number 7. Then it gets to the point of the 8. But then there's a higher form of 8, which is the Aleph that's Roichev ala Zayin. The one that rides over the 7, like the word Az Yashir. Az Yashir, Az can mean past tense and can mean future tense. Az Yashir Moshe means that then they sang the song, but Az Yashir is also then the future we'll sing the song. That's why it's a song that represents the Tchias HaMesim, the resurrection. So the word, the Aleph that's Roichev ala Zayin, the one that rides in the 7, means the one that permeates all the teva, all the nature. 7 is the structure of nature. And the Aleph that's Roichev ala Zayin is the structure of 7 that actually permeates all the aspects of the 7. It doesn't eradicate the 7. It doesn't eliminate the 7, but it's a light that's revealed in the place of the 7. It's like the idea, in the flip side, almost like the idea when we say that the word chet is the ches that has the aleph with the silent aleph, which means that the highest level is when there's the revealing. There's the revealing of Anoich Hashem Alekecha. When Hashem says, the Aleph of Anochi was revealed, and therefore the whole world becomes still, and no animals chirp, and everything has an echo, which means that there's this complete meltdown of the physical world, conceptually, of the physical world, in order for there to be a revealing of the Anochi Hashem Alekecha. That's one form of light. But then there's a higher form of light, where it's Anochi Aster Aster. It is a recognition of the Aleph of Anochi, of I, that's actually revealed within the place of the Hastara, in the place where it seems to be concealment, where it seems to be still the natural world, it seems to be the physical world, where the light is so great that it actually tolerates the place of the darkness. It's just an awareness that in that place of the darkness, we recognize that Hashem's presence is there. That's why the name that's revealed at the burning bush, where Moshe finally asks and says, Mashmai, Ma'imar Aleim, what's the name? What is the name that Hashem is revealing? Hashem says the name Ayeka, the Shem Aleph Hey Yud Hey. The Shem Ayeka is the name of, so Rashi says that the name Ayeka means that I will be with them now in this, I'm going to take them out of Egypt, and I'll be with them in the next tsar, and the next hardship, and the next hardship, which is very counterintuitive. We wouldn't imagine that Moshe Rabbeinu is trying to understand what is the name of redemption, and what does Hashem tell him? That the name of redemption is a name that represents that Hashem will be with us also in the time of our next constriction, our next exile. Imagine you're trying to tell the people you're going to be redeemed, and who's this Redeemer, Hashem, and what's that name represents? Ayeka, and this name means that eventually you're going to go back into exile. It seems counterintuitive to what the whole idea of redemption means, but this is what Hashem is revealing. The name Ayeka means that I will be with them forever. It's a becoming that I will always be with them, even in the place of the exile. And that's why there's a perplexing thing about this name Ayeka, which even though it's one of the names of Hashem, and according to the Shai Ora, there's a big machlokes between the Kabbalah and what exactly his name is connected to Shem, to Keser or to Bina. But let's say we'll say the idea that it's connected to Keser. So it's a very interesting name because all other names, and if you map out all the names that are connected to the spheres, which Shai Ora does, Yosef Italia, one of the great Mekubalim, and all the names are connected to different things, to different spheres. All the names of Hashem you're not allowed to pronounce, which means you're not allowed to say the name Yud Kei Vav Kei, certainly, but you're not allowed to say even Elokim. You say Elokim, not with an H, not with a Hey, right? You pronounce the name not the way it should be pronounced, because you're saying that there's reverence for the name, that there's a sense that I can't pronounce that name. The name is transcendent of any type of pronunciation that I can express. But the name Ayeka, technically you can say Eya. You're allowed to say that name. People don't generally say it, but halachically you're allowed to say that name. Why are you allowed to say that name? If it's the highest name, the name that represents the world of Keser, the highest name, that should be the name that you're absolutely not allowed to pronounce. And the answer is that he understands. That's exactly what the reason is. Because it's such a name, it's so high and so deep, that it permeates even the lowest place, and it includes every single aspect and even includes you. So therefore, when you're pronouncing the name, it's as if the name is being pronounced through you. When it comes to the name of Hashem, which represents transcendence, if you're not in a state of transcendence, you cannot pronounce the name. If you're in a state of nevuah, you're a higher level of prophecy, then you say Koyamar Hashem, and you say this is the way Hashem, this is the words of Hashem, and you actually pronounce the name. Or in your state of tefillah, or in a state of prayer, or in a state of learning. So then you're pronouncing the name because you're saying now I'm connected, I have dveikus. So therefore the name is Hashem Stavasei Tiftach. The name is passing through my mouth. But in a normal state of your normative consciousness state, you cannot pronounce the name because in reverence to the name, because the name represents something that's higher. And this is specifically why the name Ayeka, the name that's revealed at the burning bush, the name that represents the Or HaGanuz, is allowed to be pronounced, because in any state that you're at, even the place where you think that you're separate, or you feel that you're in exile, you feel that there's some form of separation, even in that place, Shem Ayeka is being revealed. So the name is actually being revealed through you. That's B'chol Tzarosam Loitzar. Hashem is always present, the Loy and the Loy with the Vav and the Lay with the Aleph. And even though it's transcendent, it's also with you. And that's the paradox of the name. That it's B'chol Tzarosam Loitzar, on one hand, Loitzar means that Hashem does not feel our pain. B'chol Tzarosam Loitzar with the Vav means Hashem is with us in our pain. Because it's the ultimate sense of transcendence, beyond transcendence, that also includes immediacy. And therefore it's the place of the presence of that light. And this is connected, this is what the real revealing of the Or HaGanuz, of this higher light that's being revealed during this time period. And that's why during the month of Kislev, it's the days get shorter and it becomes darker and it's colder. And yet, despite all that, that's when we say that's when is the revealing of the highest level of the Or HaGanuz, the revealing of Hanukkah, which is a premonition for a beginning of the story of the future redemption, then the revealing of Shnei Or, the two lights that's connected with the Alter Rebbe of Yitas Kislev, which is also connected to this light of Chassidus, which is the light that's revealed in the end in Ikus and Mashiach, in the last moments of exile, because that's the light that permeates all the aspects of the exile. And this is the idea that's being revealed. This is the case of the Lamed Vav, the secret, or the foundation that's being revealed during this month of Kislev. And just to sum it up, and what's important for us to really think about in terms of our own life is, how do we know if we are connected to the Or HaGanuz? How do we know that if we're shining, if we're being illuminating to others with the Or HaGanuz, is to really recognize, to see if we sense in ourselves, if we can always feel the presence of Hashem, the Aleph, in all the Haya and everything that is, everything that will be, everything that was, to always sense the presence of Hashem in our lives. And if the light that we're projecting towards others is a light that doesn't dismiss others and doesn't obliterate others, but actually is illuminating and gives space for others and gives light to others and warmth for others, then we know that the light that we're actually projecting is really connected to the Or HaGanuz. It's a light that illuminates without a need to cancel out. And when we know, and when we're surrounded and we feel that the people that we're surrounded by and the people that we give off our light and our koyach to others, and we do this in a way that's with humility and humbleness, in a way that doesn't chas v'shalom destroy another person, doesn't need to consume another person, and we don't need to be bigger to make the other person smaller, but we're projecting only bigness and helping other people become big as well in our atmosphere, then we know that we're really connected to the Or HaGanuz. So maybe it should help that through this beautiful month of Chodesh Kislev, that could be the ultimate revealing, not only in our personal lives, to sense the Aleph in our own personal lives, and in every single prat, every single detail in our lives, but we should finally see the revealing of the full Aleph and all of creation. Sure.